At the beginning of the Jordan Peterson video that I discussed last time, he says something that is truly amazing, but he doesn't elaborate it very much. He says that in this darkness, this deepest place, this abyss, we have to rescue our Father. That we discover our Father and that we have to confront this darkness in order to discover our Father and learn how to prevail, how to somehow find the ultimate meaning of life and the ultimate meaning of suffering in this abyss. He discusses that, and I'd say that gives a lot of light. It describes very well the moral and metaphysical aspects of trials in our life. We have to go through this darkness in order to become someone, in order to really incorporate also bad experience into our lives. They become ours, just like positive experiences do. But this aspect of rescuing the Father, it is somehow beyond the moral aspect and even beyond the metaphysical aspect. The moral aspect, which deals with acquiring virtue. Your Father helps you to acquire virtue. But in the end, this education of virtue must be crowned by your own personal trials where your Father cannot help you. And that the mystery of your Father's fatherhood is met in this darkness where virtue is like transcended by metaphysical aspects of our life, absolute truths that we cannot change in our lives. That all has to do with this religious instinct in man trying to find the origin and the end of all things. The Creator, the Almighty Creator, and our return to Him, our rediscovery of our own origins in this ultimate meaning of our life. But rescuing the Father, what meaning does it have in all this? It's strange. The Father, in a way, is always superior to His Son. Not only does He engender the life of His Son, but He also educates His Son because He's older, He is supposed to be wiser, His intelligence is more developed, and the Father has also an advance in acquiring virtues, so He can help His kids with that. But how come the Father must be rescued? In what way must the Father be rescued? Because He's always superior to Him. In fact, the Father should rescue the Son, and not the Son should rescue the Father in this abyss. There are some instances in the Bible where you see the vulnerability of the Father, and thus the possible place where the Father needs to be rescued, needs to be saved. The vulnerability of Noah, for example, is clear. When the flood is over, they're on the land, and Noah doesn't quite understand the effects of wine yet. He's just come back to the dry world. He has planted some grapevines, and he gets a bit drunk when he drinks the juice, which has turned into wine. And he is naked. That means he is vulnerable. He has at that time no sense of honor. And you see how one son laughs at his father, and the other son goes out, finds the other brother, the third brother, and saves the honor of the father. So that's a very truly beautiful, religious, metaphysical, and moral story about the vulnerability of the father. And we all will see that in our lives, if we live to see our fathers aging, is that our father weakens, he grows old, and we have to deal with that and help our father to deal with that. And in that way, we rescue the father. But there's more to it. There's more to it. We can read in the Bible about Jacob. Jacob has 12 sons. Joseph is in Egypt, but they don't know it's Joseph. Joseph is like lost, they don't know where he is. And the person with whom they speak in Egypt, they don't know it's Joseph. And the 10 brothers go out to Egypt to have gone out to Egypt to get food. And at some stage they come back and tell Jacob that his youngest and favorite son, his most beloved son, Benjamin, must come with him to Egypt because Joseph, who has not identified himself yet, has required this. They will not get food if the youngest son, Benjamin, doesn't come with him. And the father, who is still grieving about Joseph, who he thinks is dead, he just completely cracks up. He breaks down when there is the risk that he might even not see Benjamin again. He's totally broken. And he says, in the presence of those 10 sons, that he will go down full of sorrow into the realm of the dead if Benjamin goes to Egypt and maybe doesn't return. It's quite amazing that in front of his 10 sons, Jacob behaves as if they don't exist. When Benjamin is lost too, I will no longer be a father. It's quite amazing. There you see the vulnerability of Jacob with respect to seeing his sons, being with his sons. And of course, the third man who is a father, who reveals not the weakness, but his vulnerability, and it's a beautiful vulnerability of his fatherhood, is of course the most blokey guy in the Old Testament, which is David. David has a son who revolts against him. He wants to take power before the death of his father. He even takes his women. So he really dishonors his father. And Absalom is beaten by David's army. The revolt is crushed and Absalom is killed. And David no one can console David, who has prevailed. He has won back his crown, but his son is dead. And you see, in fact, David values his fatherhood more than his kingship. He doesn't want to celebrate the victory with his army, with even his people. He just stays inside. He has lost his son. What the son has done is no longer important. He's lost his son. That's also the vulnerability of David. And to understand the vulnerability of the father, and then also understand why the father needs to be rescued, we have to see this final, let's say, transcendence of education. Beyond virtue, the son must decide for himself. He must stand on his own feet. He must answer for his own life, without daddy helping him. The father has not just engendered the son, but he has also done everything so that the son will acquire virtue, but in the end the son is free. The virtue is in order to be free, to make your choice, to prevail, to be faithful. And those choices the son will have to make himself. And to be faithful and endure during trials, the son will have to do that by himself. That was the aim of education. And that is the vulnerability of the father, is that finally his fatherhood is not achieved by himself, but by his son. By the choices, by the life, by the courageous endurance, courageous faithfulness of his son. And that is exactly the place where the son must rescue the father, because the father has nothing to prevent the son from becoming evil or bad or abuse his virtue, his qualities, or do nothing at all, become completely indifferent. The father must let the son go, and there he is not weak, but he is totally open, he is vulnerable. And the son will have to decide the final moment of fatherhood. The father is without any means to force the son to take final and ultimate decisions. And so saving the father is to not just be grateful to your father, but also with every act show you esteem the father, you value the father. And especially by going further, being more radical than the father, you honor the father. Let me take a simple example, which is a kind of secondary fatherhood, being a trainer. It's a kind of reflection or an extension, if you like, of what fatherhood means. Say someone has made a nice career in boxing. He's won 5 out of 10 boxing matches, 3 draws, 2 losses. That's quite reasonable. And he likes boxing, and he becomes a trainer. And he trains young kids to be boxers, and they're actually learning well. They like their trainer. When this trainer tells his kids, this training has been absolutely horrifyingly boring, you're worthless, next time you come, you train, you make an effort because this is worthless. Bunch of, well, let's not use swear words in this video, but trainers, especially boxing trainers, have the right to use them, to swear at their pupils. Because a pupil, a good pupil, when he hears the trainer swearing at him during training, he will not say, oh my God, this person is not nice to me, but he will say, this trainer wants me to be a champion. Now imagine that one of these pupils really goes for it and he does become a champion. The trainer was a reasonable boxer, but his trainee, his pupil, becomes world champion. 20 matches, 20 wins, 4 by knockout. That's not just a decent boxing career, then you're a star. What about that trainer? Must he be jealous that his pupil is better than he? No, not at all. He can really be grateful for having been the trainer of this champion. You see, that's the amazing thing of fatherhood, which really is the rescue of fatherhood. This is where all vulnerability of the father, with respect to the son that he must let go, his son that has to do it finally on his own, this son that will have to find the ultimate success and the ultimate meaning of his career or his life. This vulnerability of the father is glorified if, or let's say it turns into glory, if his sons do more, do better than he himself did. Because his sons reveal a secret that he as a trainer had in himself also, but he has transmitted it without knowing it himself. That's the amazing thing. That's why prophets and trainers, they always, and priests also should, they always transmit something that they do not know fully, that they do not possess. They transmit something that is higher than them. And that's the way in which their priestly or prophetic or fatherly vulnerability or sportive vulnerability is changed into glory. Because their pupils, their children, their trainees, they do greater things than they ever did. But only, well, knowing it in an imperfect way, they were able to transmit it so that others could perfection it. And I think that's the deepest aspect of fatherhood, is the contemplative aspect. The father really reaches an ultimate meaning of his own fatherhood when he sees his sons doing greater things than he ever did. They are his sons, but they are closer to the end. And in the end, we will see the origin of all fatherhood. Fatherhood basically is a contemplative mystery. Next time I want to come back a little bit on this contemplative aspect of fatherhood. Fatherhood is like measured by moments of seeing. A first moment, a middle moment, and a last moment. We'll come back to that next video.